Welcome to the Stoplight ABCs for Parenting seminar. I'm so glad you could join us. My name is Kathleen McMillan and I'm the director at Brave Spaces Early Learning Commons. And I'm also a trainer for the Stoplight approach. If you look at the screen here, you'll see we have building healthy relationships by building emotional intelligence. And in the little house here, we have awareness, behavior, connection, decision, and engagement. And today we're going to look at those elements and find a way that we can become the best caregivers that we can for our children. I just want to introduce Sherilyn Youre and her team to you a little bit. Sherilyn is the mother of 7, and she has a team, a worldwide team, that supports her in the development of the Stoplight approach. So Sherilyn began developing the Stoplight approach when she realized some of the challenges of managing a big family with many, many different needs, particularly the fact that she was doing foster care and she had children with exceptional needs in her home. So she decided that she would like to provide a common language or a philosophy for families and caregivers so that we could all be on the same page when we talk about behavior and how to help children be successful. So stop with me for a moment and think about, what are your dreams for your child and what are your dreams for your family? You probably want them to be happy. You want them to be successful, and you probably want them to be contributing members of society. Well, with the Stoplight approach, we hope that we'll be able to help you on that journey. Good parenting is the best thing you can do for your child's future. Education and money can't replace active parenting. So let's learn about our children's brains and how they work and how we can build healthy relationships with our children. First of all, let's look at the brain science that we know. We have so many ways now that we can look at the brain, and science helps us to understand the brain of the child and how we can best support the children to reach their full potential. The brain is the control center of the whole body. It controls all the actions a person does, including emotions and feelings. And the good thing about the brain is we have neuroplasticity in the brain. And neuroplasticity means that the brain is moldable. So there's hope. Don't worry if something hasn't gone well. There are opportunities to reshape the brain and help your child and yourself learn better ways of managing. So we're going to look at the brain in 3 parts today. Now, we use the colors of the Stoplight because those 3 colors are universal. People understand what red, yellow, and green mean. And so as we look at the brain, we'll talk about the red brain. And that is actually the brain stem. It's the primitive brain. It's the part of the brain that you use when you're under stress, when you're scared, when you're not well. And there is a physical response in the body when the child feels strong negative emotions. And in adults too, it happens to all of us. We have a raised heart rate, our breathing quickens, our muscles tighten, and it makes it really hard for us to learn, to concentrate, and to think clearly. In fact, it's been said that you use only 50% of your skills or your IQ when you're using your primitive brain or the brain stem. And you know, that's not a bad thing. Actually, it's a really good thing. We have this part of our brain to help us when we're under stress or when we're afraid, so that we have a way to respond. So some of the ways that people respond when they're using their brain stem are with fight, flight, or freeze. And what we need to do when a person is using their brain stem because of the stress that they're under is we need to make them feel safe. We're going to come back to this and talk a little bit more about it throughout. We're going to keep cycling through, and we'll build and add layers to our discussion. So what do we do when someone's in red brain? Well, we calm them. We stop talking about the problem. Have you ever been in a situation where your child is just melting down, or maybe your partner is really angry and you get that feeling that something comes over your eyes and you just can't see and you can't think, right? So the best thing we can do when someone's in red brain is we can stop talking. I don't know if you've ever had a child say, just stop. Or maybe an adult has done that with you. It's because a person can't think well when you're in red brain. So just stop talking. We need to be calm and gentle, and we need to give the person that we're talking to the space that they need to calm down. And we need to make sure that the other people around us are safe. So when someone's in red brain, the first thing we need to do is make it safe. Be calm. All right, the next part of the brain that we're going to look at is called the limbic system. And this we call yellow brain. And when a person is in yellow brain, their physical response is to shut down. You might be tired, you might be hungry, you might be stressed, maybe you're frustrated or feeling ashamed. And one of the things I want to point out to you is that we talk about the child's behavior in the booklet or in the slides. But what we have to remember is that every person has the potential to respond in these ways. So the limbic system, it's the part of the brain that is engaged when we feel worried or sad, annoyed or disrespectful. What we need when we are using the limbic system, the emotional brain, is we need to feel connected. We need to draw people together. And the interesting thing is, just like the red brain, when you're using the yellow brain, you're only using 75% of your brain's capacity or your IQ. Or sometimes we talk about using your skills, right? So when a person is using the emotional brain or the limbic system, they're only able to use a portion of their skills. They aren't able to access all of their higher level thinking. So it's really, really important that we remember when someone is in yellow brain, we need to connect with them. So red brain, we need to help them feel safe. Yellow brain, we need to feel connected. All right, so let's move in to what do we do when someone is in yellow brain? Well, if we want to feel connected to someone, we have to help them feel like they're important to us. We need to show value and acceptance. One of the things I talk about a lot is, what is your image of the child? Or what is your image of the teacher or the parent or the adult that you're working with? How do you see that person? And it's really important that we focus on that. Do we value that person? Do we accept that person the way they are, with all of their strengths and their challenges? Do we actually delight in this person? It's really important, especially for children, that they understand that we delight in them. And that way we can feel connected. Do we smile at the person? Do we put them at ease? Or do we actually push someone into red brain because of the way that we view them? One of the things that often will put people into yellow brain is when they feel disconnected, or when they feel like we're not for them, that we're actually against them, or we're looking for ways that they maybe are making mistakes, or looking for their deficits rather than their strengths. So what we can do is we can meet physical needs. This is a way that we connect with people. We can take care of the person. We can meet their needs for food or sleep or lowering levels of stress. We can have developmentally realistic expectations. And one of the things that's really important, not just for children, but often for children, is to give choices or make compromises. The goal when someone is in yellow brain is to get them to green brain. So let's talk about, what is green brain? Green brain is the part of the brain, it corresponds to the part of the brain called the neocortex. And it's the outer part of the brain. And did you know that until a person is 24 years old, they actually don't have full access to all of their neocortex? So when a child is developing, an infant starts with the primary part of the brain that they use is the red brain, or the brain stem. And as the child grows and develops, they move into the limbic system, or the yellow brain. And as a child and as a person develops more and more and grows and develops more skills and more understanding and more knowledge, they become able to access the neocortex. And the neocortex is where all of your higher level skills are, where your executive functions are, where your ability to reason resides. And the goal, of course, is for us to work from our green brain. So when a person is in green brain, the behavior is focused, it's cooperative, the person is able to solve problems. Now take a moment to think about yourself. When have you seen yourself in red brain, yellow brain, or green brain? I bet you can really relate to this. When we're having fun, when we're laughing, when we're playing, we can access all of our best skills. We can access all of our knowledge. We access 100% of our IQ, and we're ready to learn. So the interesting thing is that in Canada, they say that, and who are they anyway, right? Well, the brain scientists say that Canadians actually live in, guess which color? I'll tell you. Oh, I'm going the wrong way here. Yellow brain. They say that Canadians live in yellow brain. We're always just on the edge of being overstressed. We're in a hurry. We're rushing off to all of our activities, going to work, dropping off daycare, picking the kids up, going to the sporting activities, going to piano lessons, got to get some food in us, and then hurry home, get to bed, because otherwise we're not going to get up and start all over again in the morning. And so if you really think about it, you can probably recognize how you live most of your life in yellow brain. And the thing is, we can be easily flipped into red brain when anything goes wrong. And that's really true for our children. When children are living in yellow brain, it's super easy for us to just do one thing that will flip them into red, like maybe we miss a meal, or maybe they get to bed too late, and all of a sudden everybody's working from their brainstem and it's fight, flight, or freeze. This is not what we want. The reason we don't want that is because it's only when you're using your neocortex that you're actually able to learn. So let's look at what we can do. How do we get in green brain? We need to make our children and ourselves, we need to make the people around us feel safe, loved, and connected. We need to repair conflict and practice problem solving, building skills, taking the time to redo things that don't go well so that we can build skills for next time. This is the part of the brain that we use when we're training and coaching. And when we do it in a way that is fun, where we're laughing and we have a great connected relationship with one another, this goes really well. So our goal is for everyone to be in green brain. Every child, every person needs to be valued, whether they meet our expectations or not. Regardless of behavior, abilities, gender, academic performance, everyone needs to be supported, to be loved. And the reason we want this is so that each person can reach their full potential. One of the key factors in entering and keeping yourself in green brain is the idea of attachment. And there's actually a cycle to attachment. So in yellow brain, we need to be connected, right? That's the attachment piece. So if we look at this attachment cycle, we need to see how when someone is in red brain, they may be hurt, sick, afraid, and they need the needs met. When needs are met, trust is built. And when trust is built, the child or the person feels safe and secure. And if you stop for a moment and think about this, think about opportunities or moments that you've experienced when someone's been unwell and you've met their need. I'll give you a really great example. When I was a child, I remember playing catch with my dad, and he threw the ball and I missed, and it hit me right in the nose. And of course, I was very badly hurt, and my dad felt terrible. So we were both in yellow brain. I might have even been a bit in red brain because I think I was pretty hurt. But the care that I received from my dad in that moment built the trust that I needed to reconnect and to keep the attachment strong. Because I knew he didn't hurt me on purpose, right? But if my dad had responded to me with, "Oh, don't be such a baby, like you're not really hurt," that would have broken down the trust and it would have broken down the cycle of attachment. But he took me inside, he got me ice, he was very sorry, he was very attentive, the need was met, and the trust was built. And even though I had a really sore nose and a bit of a black eye, I was completely in green brain because the attachment was so strong and I felt so loved, valued, and cared for. So, a parent's actions during a conflict or any kind of stress affect the child's development, and it affects the child and parent relationship. So how do we deal with each other when we're in conflict? This slide, I actually really want to change it. I really would like to take a big black marker and I'd like to scratch out misbehavior, because I actually don't think that any behavior is misbehavior. Behavior is purely communication. That's all it is. It's communication about the state of the relationship and how a person is feeling. And if you look at this little slide here, you can see the parent is on their phone and they're talking and talking, and the child's getting hungry. And the child says, "I feel like I'm getting ignored." Well, then the parent says, "Go do your homework." So the parent's going from disconnected relationship to giving direction, and they wonder why the child doesn't want to do it. Because everybody's in yellow brain in this moment. You can't access your best skills when you're in yellow brain. So remember, behavior is not bad. It's just a way of communicating that there's a need. And the thing of it is that when we take the punishment approach, we're keeping ourselves and other people in the state of red brain because we're breaking connection. In the Stoplight approach, we don't want to focus on the idea of punishment. That doesn't mean that we're permissive. It just means that we are focusing on attachment and building relationship rather than on punishment, which breaks down relationship. So if you look at this slide, it says, first of all, calm yourself. You need to create a safe environment. So going back to our parent that was on the phone for so long, the parent comes back in green brain and says, "I'm sorry I was so long on the phone. Let's go make lunch." This is the opportunity to connect with the child. The child feels valued and cared for. And then as they're eating lunch, the child is still in yellow because the child still feels ignored. The parent is able to say, "Can you tell me why you didn't do your job?" In this case, it was the homework, right? And we have the opportunity to listen to the other person's perspective. And because we're in green brain, we can move forward without conflict. So what do you really want your relationship to be like? Do you want your relationship to be fear-based, or do you want it to be relationship-based? Relationship-based care puts safety first. It's unconditional acceptance, and then it gives the opportunity for training. So one of the quotes I love is this quote here: "Challenging children are challenging because they don't have the skills not to be challenging." When we look at it that way, when we look at a child who is displaying challenging behavior and we recognize that this behavior is a communicating that I don't have the skill I need in this moment, it changes everything. So instead of punishing your child for their misbehavior, you ask yourself, what skill is my child lacking? And if you look here, it might be social skills, it might be self-control, it might be kindness or respect. There's lots of different kinds of skills that might be missing. But we're looking at it from the perspective of teaching the skills rather than punishing the behavior. And the really beautiful thing about it is that we have to view caregiving, whether you're the parent or a teacher or a daycare worker, whatever you're looking at as your role in the person's life. We're looking at a long-term investments. This is not a one-off. This is Are we staying in green brain most of the time? Is this a lifelong, is this an opportunity for us to teach the child to stay in green brain most of the time, knowing that there will be moments throughout a person's life, throughout a person's even day to day, where you will actually use different parts of the brain. But learning the skills that you need to be able to bring yourself back into that optimal learning moment. So, the first thing as a caregiver or a parent that we need to realize is the stoplight starts with me, with you. It starts with the parent being in green. Nothing good happens if the parent is in yellow or red. So look in the mirror. What color are you? Another question, do you wear a green mask? Are you always, holding up this green mask, thinking, yeah, I've got it all together. I'm doing such a great job. Nobody would ever know that I'm overstressed, that I didn't get enough sleep, that I'm hungry, that I need a vacation. Think about that. If you're holding up a green mask all the time, you can pretty much bet that the yellow and the red are going to leak out somewhere. And the unfortunate thing is that those colors usually leak out onto the people that are most important to us and the people that are close to us, often our spouse or our children. So we have to remember that the stoplight starts with us, and we need to make sure that we're doing all of the self-care that we need to keep ourselves in green. And even if it means that for only a moment, I stop, I breathe, I take a drink of water. Water is one of the best things you can do. Pause. Tell your child, let's get a drink of water. Take some time before you actually start talking and get yourself in green. And then we need to be detectives. We need to look at our child. We need to figure out, where's our child coming from? What's happening for the child? We need to know our child. And one of the biggest things is we need to look at what kind of lies are we believing. Are we believing this child is doing this on purpose, that they're just trying to make you mad? Or the other person, maybe it's your spouse or your partner. Often we can tell ourselves an unhelpful narrative about what's happening for the other person. We can think, they're trying to irritate me, or they're not trying to do their best. And what we really need to do is stop and look. What's happening for the other person? What part of the brain are they using, and why might they be using that kind of that part of their brain? Remembering that most of the time people actually do mean to do the best that they can, but for some reason they can't. So be a detective. Is your child in red? Are you in red? Here's some ways to know whether they are. The child might be very upset. The child might be paralyzed with anxiety. You might be paralyzed with anxiety. The child might be running away. Children in red, or people in red, are not bad. They have an alarm bell ringing in their head, in their brain, that is telling them that there is a possible threat. Now, that threat might be completely, in your mind, irrational, but in the person who's in red brain, that threat is very real. The alarm is causing an immediate response, a physical response in the child. And it is a response that is actually created by God to protect the person. And when we're in red brain, our body is telling us, this is not safe. I need to flee, run away. I need to fight, or I need to freeze. Right? And so this is the body's way of protecting us from overload. When we recognize that this person is overloaded in some way, we can respond to them in a more caring way. All right, so is your child in yellow, or are you in yellow? When you're in yellow, you might look very, very worried. You might look unhappy, or you might take a stance that appears very disrespectful to the other person. And that's one that's really hard, because that can set a parent especially and a teacher off into red brain real fast when a child looks disrespectfully at you. We need to remember that the behavior is communication. And when the brain of a child is in yellow, or the brain of a parent or a teacher is in yellow, They might not be feeling heard or seen. This is, remember, the connect piece. The person doesn't feel connected to you, and they feel unsafe and unvalued, and it might make them stressed or irritable. And remember, Canadians, we live in yellow a lot of the time. If you're from another country, maybe you recognize that in your country, people live in a different color. So our goal, again, as we said, is for everyone to be in green brain. So what does a child in green brain look like? A child in green brain is responsible, creative, cooperative, and self-motivated. Let's look at ways we can help people to be the best version of themselves, which is when you're in green brain. So if a child or a person is in red, we need to calm. Calming is the way that we approach someone. We need to help the person to calm down. Now, remember, it's not helpful to say, oh, just calm down. Doesn't that just make you more mad? We need to, remember what we said at the beginning? Stop talking, right? Don't talk about the problem. Stay nearby. Some people want to be held. Some people don't like to be touched. We need to be very aware of the other person and know and understand how they best respond to our presence around them. We need to make sure that the environment is safe. And remember, if the alarm bell has gone off in the brain, the child may do pretty much anything to protect themselves. And you know, if you think about yourself, you'll probably do anything that you need to do to protect yourself as well. The body doesn't know the difference between a false alarm and a real alarm. We need to take that into consideration. So what helps with calming? You know, the best thing is to be a student of your child or your partner, and to know what is it that person needs. A person's body needs at least 15 minutes to calm down when you've been in red brain. And you know what? If you've been in red brain for a long time, like maybe half a day or something, or even an hour, or if it's an extreme situation, like a situation where the person has experienced terror, it can take a really long time to bring the hormones and the chemicals in the body down to a calm place. With a person who's very, very angry, it can take 30 minutes to calm down. And it's really not helpful if we try to solve the problem in that moment. So, you know, maybe your child likes to play. Maybe you like to listen to music. Rhythmic movements are really helpful for children, like swinging or rocking, skipping, drumming, warm water, cold water. All of those things are really great ways to help a person calm down. The key thing is, though, there's no formula because every person is different. So we need to, again, be detectives and figure out, what does this person need? So the next part that we're looking at is yellow brain. So what do we do when someone is in yellow? Now remember, the thing that a person who is in yellow brain needs is to build connection. We need that human connection. We need that attachment. We need a good solid foundation in the relationship. And one of the ways that we can do that is by offering choices and compromises. Now, sometimes people get a little up in arms about that and they think, oh, it's just permissive. But that's actually not true. You know, when a person feels like their choices or what they want is validated, that builds connection and that helps them to see that you really do value them, that you think that they're capable, that you think that their ideas are important. And with children, you know, that's one of the things over the course of my career that I've learned. One of the things children want the most is for you to think that they can do it, that you're on their side, that you're for their ideas. When children have ideas, they're trying to learn. And when we tell them, you know, you don't have a choice or we won't compromise with them, we're actually telling them what they're trying to learn is not important. So keep that in mind. You know, one of the ways for us to still feel like we are that we are doing our role, our job, that we're fulfilling our role as a caregiver or a parent is to offer win-win choices. So it's not a choice of whether you get milk or don't get milk because milk is healthy. It's, would you like it in the green cup or the red cup? It's a win-win. Would you like to go to bed now or in 5 minutes? Well, you're still going to get into bed, but it's when are you going to get into bed? Those are some examples, right? We still have the goal of moving in a direction that we want the child to go, and we want them to experience the things that we need them to experience in this moment. But we give them some ownership and responsibility. We give them the opportunity to make some choices for themselves. And when you give a person choices, you're actually helping them to build the skills that they need for higher level thinking, for those executive functions that we all need. All right, so when we give compromises, we're avoiding the power struggle. And you could probably stop for a moment and think about people in your life that you know who, when you take a hard line with them, you're going to get into a power struggle. And that's actually not a bad thing, because a person who has their own thoughts and their own ideas is actually probably not going to get pushed around much in life. So don't look at it as a bad thing. Look at it as something positive. When your child resists you, they're actually trying to exercise their own agency. And we can empower them and help them to grow the skills that they need to use their agency in a responsible way. So find out what's behind the behavior. As a child, I remember complaining to my mom a lot about clothes. And she never bothered to ask me why I didn't want to wear the things that she wanted me to wear. If she had asked me, she would have realized that I am very sensitive to the feeling of clothes, like the tags, or the seams, or even like the lining, things like that, right? Or how tight they are. And when we find out what's behind the behavior, we might discover some really interesting things that are very helpful for us understanding that person and meeting those needs that are so important in attachment. Okay, so you can ask yourself the question, or you can, not ask yourself, you can ask the other person the question, can you help me understand? And when we offer that in a kind and caring way, we're validating the feelings of the other person, we're validating their experience, and then we are actually building those connections that we need. The aim, of course, is to make your child feel like you're not against them, but you want to solve the problem together. Now, of course, our goal is for us all to be in green brain. And when we are in green brain, we know, as we said earlier, we are in the best possible state of mind to learn. And what we can do in that, when a person is in green brain, is we can coach. And another way to look at it is being in green brain is the opportunity to provide guidance. So when we provide guidance, we are still providing boundaries, but they're gentle boundaries, they're respectful boundaries. They're boundaries that take into consideration the individual and what their needs are. We still have expectations, but the expectations are set up in a way that offers agency and empowerment so that people can build their best possible executive functioning skills. What we're really doing when we coach is we're channeling the best part of that person into full success. So the relationship between you and your child can be built up when both of you are in green. A healthy relationship with a parent or a caregiver will help a child grow resilient in all the areas of life, both for now and in the future. Think of it, a child who is resilient at school, a child who has great critical thinking skills, people, not just children, who are empathetic and respectful of one another, people who are responsible, have social skills, and have great problem-solving skills, and people who can be creative. These are the best things that a person can offer. And we can get those things, we can access those skills when we're in green brain. So what is a good coach? Just take a moment to think about that. If you've ever had a coach, maybe in a sports team, or maybe you've had a vocal coach, or you've had a coach for drama, or maybe you've had someone who has led you in an internship or something like that. When you think about what makes a good coach, you probably think of things like they're active with you, they're engaged, they have a plan, they're training and teaching skills, their expectations are realistic. They see things in you that you might not recognize in yourself, and they're bringing out the best. They want you to become your best, right? The expectations are clear. They concentrate on strengths, and they help you grow. And that's what we want for our children. We want them to have that opportunity to be seen from a strengths-based perspective rather than a deficit-based perspective. We can talk about all of this, and we can recognize that as much as we'd like to stay in green brain all the time, it's just not going to happen. There are going to be moments when we make mistakes, and even the best coach fails sometimes. So what we need is a model for repair and reconciliation so that we can rebuild those healthy relationships, that we can reestablish attachment. So remember, when things don't go well, we can fix it. We need to admit that we made a mistake and ask for forgiveness. And we need to treasure it. We need to build that attachment. We need to build that connection again. Show the importance of the relationship. Show that you care. Show that you're humble enough to admit when you've made a mistake. And then we need to change it. Make a plan to avoid the problem in the future. So once you're in green brain, talk about it and say, you know what? That didn't go well. I wonder what we can do different next time, and plan it out with the child or with the other person that you're with so that you know what you can do next time. And if you have that plan in place, when you start sliding into yellow or red brain, you can pull your plan out and pull yourself back from the brink of disaster. We can model and teach these things to our children so that they'll have the skills that they need to be as successful as they possibly can. Our homes are not always in green brain. Sometimes they're in yellow and red. When we're talking at home, we need to watch what we say, how we say it, and when we say it. Sometimes we need to delay talking when emotions are strong. It's really important that we listen and we make eye contact and we validate. Have you ever been with somebody who's like, oh yeah, you're sad, but you don't really have the right to be sad because your life is way better than you think it is. And doesn't that just drive you crazy? That doesn't help you feel better. But imagine that somebody came up to you and said, I can understand why you might be sad right now because this is really hard, or this is really scary, or you didn't get what you wanted. Stop. Don't say anymore. That's validating. I can understand why you might not want to go to bed right now because you really enjoy playing with your Lego. Stop. Let it sink in. That person suddenly knows that you actually do care about them, that you recognize how they might be feeling, right? It makes such a difference. Just think about the word and. And is adding. And if you think of the word but is it actually it's detracting. It's such a negative thing. Like if you say this is how you feel, but you shouldn't do this or that, you're actually taking away from what you just tried to say, and you're invalidating it. So just remember that instead of saying but, try and say and. You feel sad, and this is hard. Right? It makes a huge difference. Actually, you know what? If you try it, you'll probably notice in a very short time, you have a whole new perspective on how to view people from their strengths rather than from their deficits. Spend time together without interruptions. Hugs and laughs build connection. Did you know that in 10 minutes a day of concentrated effort, you can build actually really strong attachment? It only takes a little bit of time. And it seems ridiculous when you say it that way, that 10 minutes of undistracted attention can build the attachment that you need to stay in green brain. Think about that for a while. So let's cross this miss off here and remember that behavior does not always mean that the child is in red. Sometimes people spill their milk just because it's a mistake. Oops, I dropped my cup and it spilled. The child wasn't trying to be bad. The child wasn't trying to make you angry. The child wasn't trying to make a mess. They just had an accident. You know, a child who spills their milk in yellow brain might have spilt it because they were being clumsy or they were being careless. That doesn't mean they're bad. That just means they have a skill that's lacking and we need to build the skill. Or the child might very well be in red brain. They might have dumped their milk on purpose because they're just mad at you. But do you know, putting yourself into red brain and getting angry is not going to accomplish the goal of teaching and coaching or guiding the behavior. So remember, if the child is in red brain, we need to calm and find out what is behind the behavior. All right. Oh, this is the slide I was looking for. 10 minutes a day. It takes 10 minutes a day in order to build a healthy relationship. Every child needs at least 10 minutes with their parents a day. Our intentional, undivided, uninterrupted connection building activity. And you know, if you know your child well, you'll know what speaks to them. For me, for my children, when they were little, it was reading together. You know, I think if I had had a cell phone in those days, we might not have connected quite as well as we did. Because we can think that we're paying attention to our children, but we're distracted by the devices, by the things that are coming up on our phone, or the things that we're thinking about that we need to do. We need to remember that to build attachment, we need to have undivided, intentional connection. And remember, you're not alone. It takes a village to raise a child. And we're part of your village. Your childcare workers, your daycare provider, grandparents, aunts and uncles, neighbors, we're all part of the village. And it does take a village to raise a child. A child needs continuous support from family and other important adults in their life, in addition to spending time with parents. Don't forget also that you need a village. You need the people in your life who can build you up, who can encourage you, who can help you when you're struggling. Let us be part of your village. We'd love to spend more time talking with you about the challenges that you face. In fact, we're going to actually have another video. We're going to put a second video about the stoplight together. And this video is going to be about emotional intelligence. Did you know that the success of an individual is not based on their IQ? The success of an individual is actually based on their EQ, which is their emotional intelligence. If a person is very self-aware, understands their own behavior, has good connection and ability to make connection, can develop decision-making skills and can engage in the world around them, they're actually going to be far more successful than a person with a really high IQ. So stay tuned for the next video. And thanks for joining us today. I hope this was helpful. Stick around for the rest of the Zoom call and we'll have some discussion around this. And let us know if there's any way we can help you.